The Russian shipbuilding industry has ambitious plans to build 638 ships by 2030. That means you need to submit about 90 vessels every year. Last year, foreign shipyards built 36 ships based on orders. At the same time, there are many orders, and factories are working at full capacity. Timelines are being affected by the need for import substitution, personnel shortages, and the need for modernization. We will now explain how companies resolve all these issues. Here is the first story. Made in Russia. Severodvinsk, Arkhangelsk region. Severodvinsk Sevmash, located in the Arkhangelsk region, is one of Russia's largest shipbuilding complexes. This is where nuclear submarines, our country's nuclear shield, are built. However, products for civil shipbuilding are actively developing, and now we will tell you more about everything. Today, 95% of Sevmash's workload consists of state defense orders. These are projects that everyone has heard of, Yasen M and Borei A. These are strategic and multi-purpose submarines. A huge order from the Ministry of Defense is the modernization and repair of the heavy nuclear-powered missile cruiser Admiral Nakhimov. And here is, for example, a unique civilian project, collaboration with the Malachit Design Bureau and the Kurchatov Institute, a manned underwater vehicle. A view of almost 270 degrees, 2 pilots, any depth. It will be used to inspect Gazprom's pipelines and, if necessary, perform other tasks. By now, everyone probably knows about the new Russian icebreakers being mass-produced at USC's Baltic shipyard. Building them is a nationwide effort. For instance, Severodvinsk now supplies the massive propeller shaft bearings to replace imported ones. The first set was manufactured for the Project 22-20 icebreaker Chukotka that we delivered it to the Baltic shipyard in late 2024. And while Sevmash certainly knows its way around ship bearings, an order like this was a real challenge. We have never had a bearing of this size in our product range. Furthermore, it features a specialized design, specifically for use in ice conditions on ice-breaking vessels. The product has successfully passed testing, and orders have already been placed for the next icebreakers, Leningrad and Stalingrad. And in general, the company is ready to tackle tasks of any complexity. For example, here they managed to give a second life to the cruiser Admiral Gorshkov, which became the flagship of the Indian fleet, the aircraft carrier Vikramaditya. We have developed unique civilian projects, such as the Prirazlomnaya platform, which enabled Gazprom to begin offshore economic operations. They made equipment for metallurgists, for medical professionals, prototypes of instruments, for the nuclear sector, storage kits for spent nuclear fuel. The experience is multifaceted. In general, there are 100 departments at the giant factory, and everywhere, modernization of infrastructure and equipment is carried out with state support. We have invested tens of billions in the plant. We are preparing to manufacture more complex, science-intensive products, such as fifth-generation submarines for the Navy, as well as other high-tech equipment. We are ready to construct ships of any class. Essentially, we can build anything, not only submarines, but surface vessels as well. Of course, it is important to have someone to do the building. We need professionals, assistance with social programs, housing for employees, and naturally training. We are the only ones in Russia preserving the factory university system with our own vocational schools and technical college. Furthermore, under a decree by Vladimir Putin, we created a production company. They serve here, trained to defend the motherland, while simultaneously doing practical work at the factory. The USC enterprise is ready to build complex marine equipment and develop international partnerships. For instance, spent nuclear fuel containers were supplied to Kazakhstan. This is an example of Russia developing the export of high-value added goods. Overall, about the growth of supplies abroad, despite the pressure of unfriendly countries, at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum spoke Veronika Nikashina, General Director of the Russian Export Center, which turns 10 this year.
10 лет.
In just 10 years, we have supported 72.5 thousand unique exporters. That is the number of exporters who turned to us for support at least once and received it. Not just applied, but received it. We consider it support when our client has received assistance, not simply made a request. Many companies come back to us repeatedly, so the amount of regular communication is much higher. The volume of supported exports over these 10 years is nearly 20 trillion rubles. The number of supported exporters is growing. Last year, there were over 24.5 thousand companies, and the export volume exceeded 1.5 trillion rubles. The government will allocate another 1.5 billion rubles to support SME exporters. Returning to shipbuilding, let's continue the topic of support. Without it, the only shipyard in the Perm region would have faded into oblivion. Made in Russia. Perm region. There is only one shipyard in the Urals, and it is in Perm. And yet, there could have been none left. Several years ago, the plant almost closed and, so to speak, hit rock bottom. But now they are launching ships and building important infrastructure facilities. Regarding what this is and the revival in general, we will tell you right now. The plant, which had been building vessels for decades, ended up in the hands of inefficient owners located abroad. To save the enterprise 4 years ago, control was transferred to the Perm region. An investor was found. The shipyard became a resident of the Perm Special Economic Zone. I believe that regarding those niches where we were forced to master new types of products and services, we are, I believe, coping one way or another. And this, again, allows us to revive certain industries. Take shipbuilding, there used to be no sales, but now there are sales. Due to the growth in tourism and the fact that river vessels really need to be updated. And essentially, this served as the basis for us to be able to attract an investor, modernize the shipyard, and we are filling it with orders. Moscow was the first in the world to launch year-round electric vessel routes. They were built in St. Petersburg, but the order for the docks for them, which also serve as charging stations, was awarded to the Perm shipyard. 23 stops have already been made and successfully delivered to Moscow. They are currently in operation there. And right now there are another 5. And the outlook for next year is seemingly another 5. But that question is currently being decided. Having got back on its feet, the shipyard received other orders as well from the Perm region. We are making docks. Generally speaking, docking and river infrastructure are developing very actively here. And we are taking a large part in that. There is also an order for the vessel Baikal. The client is Vodohod. It is a beautiful 5-star cruise ship. It will be built here with a hybrid system, 69 meters in length. Thanks to this order, the workload is heavy. So, a series production might happen here too. Possibly, yes. Also, with financial support from GTLK, we are ready to build the Moscow 2.0. These are new high-speed electric motor ships. So you are secured with orders for several years ahead. We are definitely secured with orders for 2 years, but shipbuilding is that kind of industry. We would like to have a workload for 5 years, so that we could plan, so that we could train personnel, and also modernize the shipyard. The shipyard's modernization is in full swing. For example, in this workshop, which used to look quite scary, repairs have been done and new equipment is being installed, supported by the Industrial Development Fund. But it's not just about the equipment. In hard times, only 50 people remained at the enterprise. Now there are already 140, and they are hiring 10 specialists every month. For the Baikal, we estimate that next year we will have to recruit over 200 people here just for the main production workforce. It's unclear where to find that many people, right? Well, yes. We are actively working with the Perm employment authorities to attract local residents from Zakhamsk. Our recruitment advertising is working.
по трудоустройству работают.
And we will probably also hire through contractor organizations. Further, also about new opportunities for Russian shipbuilders, which all those unfriendly countries opened up without expecting it themselves by imposing sanctions against companies. There is a good example in Severodvinsk. Made in Russia. Severodvinsk, Arkhangelsk region. On a ship, of course, there are no unimportant systems and components, but arguably among the priorities are control systems. For instance, until recently, similar azimuth thrusters on our fleet were predominantly imported. The Central Propulsion Systems Center in Arkhangelsk actively replaces imports, located on the Severodvinsk Zvezdochka site. If we start with history, then systems that allow a vessel to follow the necessary courses are by no means new to the enterprise. Since Soviet times, 25,000 propellers have been made, and the center created within the plant is also already experienced. Over the history of its creation, more than 14 azimuth thrusters have already been manufactured. They have already been delivered in series to active ships. Some are already in operation and have already worked through their warranty period. Therefore, besides these civilian thrusters that we make, maneuvering thrusters are also assembled here. The thrusters operate on tankers, research vessels, and icebreakers. But this thruster behind us was designed for the Project 29900 ship, that is a diesel icebreaker. We developed it with the Ministry of Industry and Trade under a federal target program. And it is designed, I repeat, for 9 megawatts and holds the icebreaker Ice Class Icebreaker 7. This essentially means navigating through quite severe ice conditions in a solid ice field. Smaller thrusters have been made. A 2.5 megawatt version has already gone into serial production for tugboats. And for research vessels, the Severodvinsk product has replaced the foreign one. Did they prove no worse than the American ones? Well, practice will show. But the fact that we have operated 4 thrusters on Project 23E470 Sea Tugs proves exactly that. What enables us to achieve such quality? Experience, our own design bureau, and test benches. On average, how long does testing take? Well, on average, a thruster undergoes testing for about a month. That determines our throughput capacity. That is, on this bench, 12 thrusters can be tested per year. The second bench is designed for 6 thrusters per year. They are larger and more complex to produce and to substitute for imports. While in the 3 megawatt ones, there are already B5% Russian parts, in their more powerful counterparts, the gears were Finnish and are now Chinese. But we need our own. This element is missing, yet it is key to the propeller columns. Without it, there are no columns, no ships, and we are no maritime power. The enterprise produced a prototype on its own, but for full-scale production, machine tools are needed. Yes, we do not have the ability to buy these machine tools. We have worked out the project. It's estimated at about 2 billion rubles just for machine tools. Here, it is difficult to manage without support. Right now, we are working on either making such machine tools ourselves via reverse engineering, or purchasing foreign machine tools in order to raise the degree of localization even higher. I think that within the next year, localization will already be gradually inching towards 100%, and we must understand that if we do not place orders with our own enterprises and buy from them, then, once again, we already spoke about this today, economies of scale won't happen, and cost reduction in serial production will not occur. We have looked into it. Overall, we are ready today to reach production of up to 100 thrusters per year, especially after the acquisition of the machine tools, which I hope will happen in the near future. And they also need personnel. There are only 12 people in the design bureau. Here, the issue is the training of the necessary specialists. There is no such specialization aimed specifically at the design, manufacture, maintenance, and creation of propulsion systems. Solving difficulties with state support opens up good opportunities for manufacturers. For example, the center is already making equipment for the newest Russian icebreaker, Leader. Or despite sanctions, it is ready to develop international cooperation. Our specialists returned from China. They performed service work, replacing blades on vessels undergoing dock repairs. Therefore, our export potential still remains. To support enterprises that want to develop exports or are ready to enter foreign markets, the Russian Export Center has many tools in its arsenal, financial and non-financial. From training, participation in business missions, and compensation for logistics costs to assistance in entering foreign marketplaces. We, as the Russian Export Center, open online stores, electronic trading platforms, digital shelves, and accounts on the largest foreign international marketplaces. We have already opened 44 such national stores made in Russia, and with the help of our operator, we place products there and deliver to warehouses in the target countries. A large-scale program to promote our products under the national brand Made in Russia until 2030 has been approved on the instructions of Vladimir Putin. The number of exporters is growing. Next is an example of a major player in the domestic market, preparing to supply more abroad, and a new fleet will help with this. Let's head to Kamchatka. Made in Russia, Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky-Kamchatka region. It is one of the largest fishing enterprises in the Kamchatka region. They built their own catch processing plant and naturally vessels. Updating the fleet is very important. By the way, the seiners are state-of-the-art. A company with a rich history, already 96 years old, a period during which they had to weather many economic storms. Thanks to the people, thanks to the team, we managed to survive the difficult, turbulent 1990s. But thanks to the investment quotas program, it has improved, by the way, because the fleet in the industry was indeed already outdated. Briefly put, under the investment quotas program, business receives the right to catch certain volumes of fish in exchange for investing in vessel construction and infrastructure. At the moment, we have built 2 investment facilities. These are onshore factories and 9 vessels. We built 3 vessels at Yantar, that is a Baltic shipyard in Kaliningrad. Here are these vessels. On board, there is everything for the comfort of the crew, which has become smaller thanks to automation. Practically, if the old one caught 15 or 20 tons a day, these catch up to 70 tons. The difference is tangible. And another 6 seiners, smaller ones. They actually built themselves over 4 years, essentially reviving shipbuilding in Kamchatka. 5 vessels are already engaged in the fishery, working in the Sea of Okhotsk off western Kamchatka. Moreover, they supply raw catch to our onshore investment plant. The factory, by the way, also features a high degree of automation, which helps process 50,000 tons of fish per year. And here is a new step. In Kaliningrad, the super trawler Viktor Gavrilov was launched. Well, this is truly a unique project with the highest level of deep processing, a highly efficient vessel. There are no such vessels even in the world. The vessel will still undergo final construction, yet it could have not been made at all. In 2023, the project stalled. To resolve fulfilling obligations to contractors, the Vice Speaker of the State Duma even had to intervene. Victoria Anatolievna Yarovaya supported us, and we will continue to support it to finish building the vessel. At Yantar, the state has already provided support, allocating an additional 1 billion rubles for the construction of the vessel. This is, in principle, a bonus. Another problematic question is, who is going to work? Specialists are needed who are in short supply in Kamchatka, and you can't lure them with salary alone. Priorities are education quality, social improvements, and working conditions, especially since the peninsula now has shipbuilding. Our technical schools and colleges are rapidly re-equipping. Indeed, now it is nothing to be ashamed of. We see behind us the building of the Kamchatka State Technical University. The simulators for navigators are like a spaceship. The guys have a sparkle in their eyes. They understand why they are studying, what for and how to work, for the good of the country and the Kamchatka region. In the 25-40 age group, we see an influx of population. This is a response to the fact that jobs are in demand, well paid, and most importantly, interesting. By 2029, the fishermen want to build 2 more refrigerated vessels and 2 more trawlers, and in this way completely renew their fleet. And they want to open another factory for the production of surimi, minced fish for crab sticks. In other words, there will be more products, including for export. Surimi is, after all, an Asian market, but nevertheless, we will produce it here, and we'll make finished products here, like crab sticks, with high added value. Absolutely correct. By the way, regarding exports, China in particular and Asia in general are ramping up trade relations with Russia. A serious role in this is played by the promotion of our products. For example, with the help of Made in Russia festivals and fairs. They took place in the UAE and several times in China. Recently, for example, in Harbin. It is interesting that Russian products, including seafood, are successfully sold by bloggers. Since 2020, I personally have been participating in various streams with Chinese bloggers and other opinion leaders. When in 3 minutes you can sell as much as in a year, right? Absolutely right. You know, we had examples where, when in 15 seconds our warehouse emptied of what we intended to sell over the course of a year. Therefore, this is a very effective sales method. We are entering into partnerships with ambassadors of the Made in Russia program. Next, let's return to the domestic market, to new jobs, revitalization, and of course, ships. Our next story comes from the Irkutsk region. Made in Russia. Irkutsk region. Getting these hydrofoil catamarans to take flight over the pristine waters of Baikal was no easy task. The country hadn't built winged catamarans before. Ultimately, Rybinska's Vimpel shipyard, with the Nizhny Novgorod design, decided to take on the challenge, but not alone. Irkutsk's East Siberian River Shipping Company became more than a client. It revived a shipyard for final outfitting and later testing the vessels. As a result, the stated specifications were confirmed. The range must be thousands of kilometers, because Baikal is a huge lake with nearly sea-like weather conditions, so these parameters were hard to achieve. So today, having solved this task, we are very happy and proud that we created a hydrofoil, possessing speed, range, and the ability to approach the shore. With a draft of 1 meter, unlike the Kometa, which has 3.73. However, the construction process was not devoid of challenges. Due to aggressive sanctions, they had to replace, in particular, the engines. We had to redesign the ship along the way for other engines, for other equipment. And accordingly, we passed this stage not without problems. But the most important thing is that we passed it. State support proved invaluable. Now each of the 2 catamarans, capable of speeds of 65 kilometers per hour, stands ready to comfortably transport nearly 150 passengers. For instance, from the Irkutsk coast to the Republic of Buryatia. Operational success is a good foundation for a series of such vessels. The entire fleet on Baikal, which is obsolete and outdated in terms of operational qualities, no longer fits the business model. Naturally, we must replace it with more modern motor ships. The shipyard is developing and modernization is underway. Ships are also being repaired here. Furthermore, We are also building a cruise ship. By Baikal standards, it is simply a huge ship.
Это просто огромный корабль.
As of today, we are already halfway there.
Мы уже полпути прошли.
We will launch it at the end of this year, and next year it will be put into operation.
А на следующий год сдадим в эксплуатацию.
But renewing the fleet is only half the battle. Infrastructure is needed. There are no facilities for waste disposal, refueling, or docking ships.
Для отстоя судов.
Consequently, autonomy is necessary, which places an additional burden on operating costs.
Стоимость эксплуатации.
The shipyard also plans to build electric vessels, which are eco-friendly. But along with the development of infrastructure on Baikal, it is difficult to accomplish such a task without state support. Just as it is for shipbuilding in general, there is a huge demand for domestic products, which is extremely important to satisfy, while solving difficult issues with staffing, replacing imported technologies, and modernization.